All right, welcome into UPod to Win the Game. I am Charles Robinson here with Frank Schwab for the conference title game edition. We finally got here, and it appears, given the seeds, given the locations, that everything stayed true to form. Now we have the AFC title game, the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the San Francisco 49ers. And Frank, I got to tell you, not a ton of surprises over the weekend. Got teams that, had we been told this was how it was going to shake out, maybe not the most thrilling result in terms of everything kind of going the way it was going to go. But I'm excited. I think these are two good title games. They're two good matchups. Some trash talking guys are going to be involved in this game. All in all, very excited to see how this wraps up and what kind of a Super Bowl we get out of this.
Yeah, I think the best way to kind of frame the Final Four here is the Super Bowl odds. Over at BetMGM, the favorite, I believe, is the Chiefs right now at plus 250. The fourth best odds are the 49ers at plus 280. So there's no gap. This is basically all four teams have an equal shot. Let's go. I don't think – I assume you agree with this. You wouldn't be surprised at any of these four teams winning a title.
Nope.
Right? Like, it just seems like throw these teams into a blender – and one of them's going to come out, and it could be anyone. And it really, you see each of the title, unless it's changed this morning on Monday morning, each of the point spreads for the title game, less than 3 points, which is basically just pick a winner. This is real, as evenly matched of a Final Four as I can remember. Again, going back to the Super Bowl odds, it just shows you anybody could win this thing, and it's going to be really, really fun to the stretch. I think we got the right Final Four. We could argue, maybe the Bills deserve to be in the final, but they laid such an egg. We'll talk about that. But I do think we have the right four teams here, and it's going to be really fun. Really, really fun to the stretch.
Well, I'm in San Francisco right now, so we might as well start off with that game, the late Sunday game. The San Francisco 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys 19-12. Kind of one of those grinding games. You knew you're going to get two good defenses in this one, and it lived up to that. You knew you were going to get kind of an interesting Brett Maher kicking line, what happened with him, pregame, the shaky miss that got blocked.
And that thing was going to miss by like 20 by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
It was not even close. Yeah.
When it got kicked, everybody we were all looking at each other in the press box going, probably lucky it got blocked.
Right. Yeah.
Missed by a mile to the left. But really, I think this just comes down to when I looked at sort of the reaction to this game. And, on the negative side, a lot of people are going to be talking about Dak this offseason. A lot of people are going to be talking about how Ezekiel Elliott sort of finished out the year, how the offense completely changed. Tony Pollard goes down with a fracture, and the offense for Dallas just completely shifts. But, on the positive side, I think you look at the San Francisco 49ers and that defense. I don't want to say it's like the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis, Super Bowl winning defense over the Giants, at the turn of the century kind of thing. But it's a pretty good defense, and I think it's going to give.
I think it's pretty close, honestly.
Really?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't look. The 2000 Ravens are among the top 5 defenses of all time, so maybe not that tier, but it's one of those defenses that can absolutely carry a team to a championship. Like, you look at this Final Four, and one of the weird things about it, we have 3 teams with elite superstar quarterbacks, right? Mahomes and Hurts are going to finish 1-2 in MVP. Joe Burrow is top 5 quarterback for sure. And then you got the 49ers, who are completely built differently. Like, we're going to beat you up on defense. We got a lot of stars on offense, but we got a rookie quarterback we're kind of bringing along here for the ride. So it's an interesting dichotomy there with the 49ers. But I do think this defense is, look, maybe it's not the 2015 Broncos, 2002 Buccaneers, 85 Bears. Like, there are a few top defenses like that in its own tier. The 49ers are right below that. Every play for the Cowboys seemed like a challenge. Like, just to get positive yards. They were really, especially after Pollard went out. Like, Pollard was the one guy they couldn't lose, and we found that out in the second half. And it says something about the Cowboys' offense. I think they got to add something to CeeDee Lamb. Like, Michael Gallup, he didn't do much. Dalton Schultz is a solid tight end, but you need a little more pop in that offense. And then Dak. Like that, yeah, I hate to make every single Dak Prescott game a referendum on his career, but look, 2 bad interceptions. That cost them a game. They win this game, especially the second one, deep into 49ers territory. You realize points are going to be at a premium.
Yeah.
He just throws a terrible. He never sees Jimmy Ward tipped up. Fred Warner picks it off. I don't know. I think Dak is good enough to win a Super Bowl with. I do. But he's the kind of quarterback you need to build around. He's not a Mahomes, even a Hurts, Burrow. You need to build a great supporting cast around him. And once Pollard went out, we saw Cowboys supporting cast isn't that good to just carry a good but not great quarterback.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just turned out that Pollard was, look, CeeDee Lamb, great player. I would say he and Pollard are comparable. You lose either of those guys, it's going to have a huge impact. But you could just feel everything about it shifted the second he went out of the game. And as you said, Dak, I mean, there were times where I felt like he was throwing balls that it didn't look like he was seeing defenders. Like I was questioning, like, is his vision being blocked at times? Is he just not expecting defenders to break on the ball? Is he expecting certain things out of his wideouts to be in places where they weren't necessarily going to be? There's just too many moments where you saw defenders, cutting in front of passing lanes. And then interestingly enough, you kind of flip it and you look at Brock Purdy, and this is a little bit of, what I wrote about. There's this 30-yard completion to George Kittle where it touches like every possible surface on Kittle's body, seemingly, by the time he catches it. And, after the game, you talk to Kittle and he's just like, I wasn't even the read on that play. Like, it was everybody else. And I just got caught in a situation where all of a sudden we're off script. He starts to leak into space and he sticks his hand up. And Purdy's like, all right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Like, I'm going to throw it across, the field. It wasn't a huge, he threw it back across the field. It wasn't a huge risk, but it was definitely a risk at the moment, particularly to throw it to a guy who wasn't a read on the play. And I thought it was interesting because you sit there and this is sort of what I ended up writing, is just that this 49ers team now feels a little bit like the last 2 Super Bowl winners, where, remember, when Tampa went into mid-December, they were, I think like 7-4, 7-5, somewhere in there. Yeah, and we were all questioning them. They had problems. It didn't feel like, oh, this is the hammerlock kind of Super Bowl team. We still thought maybe it's a year early. They end up really just hitting their stride in December and January and then winning a Super Bowl. And then even the Rams went into early December. I think they were like 7-4, and we were questioning like, oh, maybe this isn't, there's problems here. I mean, this isn't all it's cracked up to be.
They barely won the NFC West.
And now you have the 49ers who, how many times did we question, coming into the season? Remember, the whole offseason was talking about the quarterbacks. Is it Trey Lance? Jimmy Garoppolo is being told to stay away from the team. This is weird. Deebo Samuel doesn't even want to be here. Nobody knew who Brock Purdy was if you weren't a 49ers or an Iowa State fan. And now you look at this team. I went in the locker room and Deebo Samuel sitting in his locker laughing. Brock Purdy, he walks into the hallway in Levi Stadium and you hear the fans like it's like a rock star, just walked out of the locker room. And it definitely has the feel of the momentum of the last couple of years where we watch Super Bowl teams just sort of pick it up at the right time and the right place. Now, look, they're going to go to Philly. It's going to be a tough road game. I think Brock Purdy just played in the toughest game that he's played to this date. But what you and I have said all season about San Francisco is the team, as you said, built differently, ton of depth. They got healthy all over the place at the right time. Yeah, we saw it last night. I mean, Elijah Mitchell steps in when Christian McCaffrey has tweaked like his calf. Kittle's making plays. The offensive line's playing really well. It just feels like a team right now that doesn't need the other quarterback in this Final Four, because we look at every other quarterback in this Final Four and we're like, he's such an outlier. These 3 guys and Brock Purdy.
By the way, real quick, because this, not that this hasn't been mentioned, but everybody was kind of dunking on the 49ers for the Christian McCaffrey trade. Oh my God, he gave up so much. They're undefeated with him. Other than the first game where he played like 15 snaps off the plane, right? Like that, who cares? They haven't lost since then. He's been such a difference maker for them. Not necessarily against the Cowboys. The Cowboys did a great job bottling him up, but in every other game, McCaffrey is such a difference maker. Give a lot of credit to the 49ers for making a bold trade. Whereas I remember people, you tweeted out, the 49ers felt they were running back away, and everybody, all the Twitter people on you, like, oh, how could you say that? It's 2022. We should be better than this. No, they were running back away. He has made such a difference for them. It's just an interesting dynamic in that they've built this team totally different. They just, it's almost like the quarterback doesn't matter in this league where, like you said, the quarterback matters so much that we're giving these guys, $40, $50 million a year. The 49ers are basically a quarterback-proof offense. It's a weird construct, but it's really interesting. It's fun. It's fun not to just have four of the same teams in the Final Four, right? I just have a lot of respect for this 49ers team. Really well coached, just put together really well. I think a lot of you talked about Dak looking confused all the time, and he did. He really was. He's seeing ghosts. He's the Sam Darnold line. I think a lot of that's DeMeco Ryans. He's such a creative play caller. I really hope he does get a head coaching job. I hope it's not in Houston because I think that's a dead end job. But I just have such a respect for what the 49ers are doing. They're just mashing teams. I mean, they haven't lost since I believe it's October 23rd is their last loss. It's a really, really good football team, and this Brock Purdy story just keeps going. It's pretty crazy.
And the thing that was crazy too when you watched the Niners live last night was just that, at times it felt like they were sending a lot more guys than they were. It's just
I know, right? Yeah. It's one of those defenses where it feels like they're on a power play. Like they're playing 12 on 11. Like it's just like, where's the extra guys coming from?
At one point, CeeDee Lamb's running down the middle and the pass gets broken up, and you realize like Fred Warner just ran 30 yards with CeeDee Lamb, almost 40 yards with CeeDee Lamb down the middle of the field, stride for stride. That's a linebacker. It's not granted, one of the best linebackers in the game, no question. I totally get it, but good Lord, it's as you said, DeMeco Ryans having this defense at his fingertips has been fantastic. I think they've called the game really well. I guess I would ask you, what do you think that? I know it's built differently, okay, but conference championship games are different types of games. And someone tweeted out last night, the four quarterbacks are set. And, you sit there and you're like, okay, Mahomes, Burrow, Jalen Hurts. And then it's like this, you order French fries and you get a burnt onion ring in the middle of it. You're like, where did this come from? Like, this just it sticks out like a sore thumb. Obviously, Brock Purdy is better than a burnt onion ring. I'm not saying that. It's so.
No, don't just burnt onion rings. They could be all right. You get that extra onion ring in your fries. I'm not mad.
It's just so clear and obvious, though, that this is the gap in terms of the quarterbacks. And yet, I just keep going back to that Kittle play. He makes the plays when he needs to make the plays. Everything is not always perfect, but they continue to win with him and be successful with him when it matters. Before we move on, we'll kind of get into the matchups a little bit later in the week, but Dallas, what does the offseason become? What does this talk become about in Dallas? I mean, it's people are going to talk about Dak, his money. Hey, at some point you have to start thinking contract extension with him again, because remember, he only signed a 4-year deal. Zeke, I had people texting me, like I literally had a league source last night text me, like, it's just, this doesn't look like he's going to be viable as a running back anymore. He like straight up, he clearly looked like he was a backup now to Tony Pollard. The talent gap there, at least the impact gap, is pretty significant. He gets trotted out there on that weird last play where he gets trucked. I don't even know what to think about the last play of the game. I just thought when it happened, I thought like, Dallas fans are going to be losing their minds already with like Mike McCarthy and whatever they want to pick apart in this game. But then you put that formation on the field and it just looks horrible. And it also becomes emblematic for frustration of Cowboys fans.
That's the thing. I think it's emblematic. I think people made too much of that last play, man. They had a 0.001% chance of going 80 yards on that play. Who cares? There's no play to playbook. That's
no, there wasn't.
Right,
of course not.
And people, last night on Twitter, I wake up this morning on Twitter, everybody's talking about, let go of the last play. Who cares? Like, it's only going to work anyway. I mean, they tried something different. It didn't work, obviously. With the Cowboys in their offseason, I definitely, like Zeke, I think is good running back still, but he's a $100 million running back, 90 I think he's got. No, he's not worth that. He's not a number one guy anymore. He's not an impact maker. If he was a league minimum guy, I'd be like, yeah, he's a great number two back at a committee behind Tony Pollard, clearly behind Tony Pollard. But he's not that anymore, so they're going to have to figure out something there. Running back's easy to figure figure out, though. I really think the key to this all is they need another playmaker for Dak. I think they need, if it's Gallup being another year removed from the ACL and he looks better, because we have seen flashes from Gallup of being really good, or just some super slot guy who is just going to make life easier for Dak. Because, again, you got to build around him. And I know he's getting paid so much that he should be a top 5 guy, but the truth is he's in that, number 7 to 12 range of quarterbacks who you need to help out, and he can win. He can do that. He's got to cut down the interceptions. I think they're right there. The Cowboys were right there yesterday. It's not like they were blown off the field by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, that game was tied as the fourth quarter started. You saw it. I didn't see much separation between those teams, except Dak threw 2 back-breaking interceptions, and the rookie Mr. Irrelevant didn't. So it'll be interesting to see what Dallas does going forward. I think Zeke has to be done because his contract just doesn't match what he does anymore. But I don't think this team is far off. It's not going to be easy just to find another receiver, a playmaker in the passing game, but maybe they can figure that out. I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. In terms of the option, I mean, Amari Cooper would have been helpful. In a game
yeah. You're right. I know. Yeah, who would you rather have yesterday, Amari Cooper or Zeke? That's basically because you had Zeke, you felt you had to trade away Amari Cooper. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you signed Gallup. I get it. I understood the risk they took. It just, none of it's really worked. I mean, Gallup has not really worked out coming off of injury. Amari Cooper goes, and I think he plays a really solid role in Cleveland. Wide receiver money goes where it goes. It might not have been the worst risk. Again, that's hindsight. I get it. It's totally money quarterbacking that situation. But it is what it is. Mike McCarthy, before we move on, he's safe, right? Like, I mean, it felt like as disappointed as Jerry was last night. Jerry Jones, it seemed like he understood 12, back-to-back 12-win seasons. You won a playoff game this year. This should represent a step forward, even though it frustrates Cowboys fans who are Super Bowl or bust. Grudgingly, it does represent a step forward. And to me, I feel like Mike McCarthy's done enough to earn, whoever the holdouts are at this point. And by the way, the 49ers might win the Super Bowl. Maybe that would make fans feel a little bit better that, you lost to a team that clearly has great Super Bowl odds.
Yeah, this one wasn't a team like, you don't feel like, oh yeah, we got upset. We should have won this game. You could have won this game. It was right there, but 49ers are a really good team. The NFL's hard. The NFL's really tough. And Mike McCarthy, for all the grief he gets, and I get it, look at his record. There's something to that. It's not like this guy is just bumbling his way to 4-13 every year. Right. They had a really good team this year. They navigated injuries early on, especially to Dak. They were really, really good. They could have won this game if not for a couple mistakes. There really were a couple plays. Like the kickoff return, if the guy bounces outside instead of running into Robbie Gould, it's a different game. Just a few plays like that where, that's how tight the NFL is, especially among what ended up being the final 6 teams. I thought any of the final 6 teams could win. The 49ers ended up beating the Cowboys. That's fine. It's not that Mike McCarthy stinks. I think that's overrated a little too much. I think Mike McCarthy's fine. I do think he's safe. I don't think that they're going to make a move after what we saw. So we'll see where they go going forward. And I think those Cowboys have a totally fine foundation, and they could be right back in the same spot next year. And that's really all you can ask for. Let's move it ahead to the other game on Sunday, which honestly, it's not shocking that the Cincinnati Bengals won, but it was kind of shocking the way this game played out. They win 27-10 against the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, you could tell first quarter, it's like, oh yeah, the Bills are in trouble. It was weird in that it's snowing, right? Which was really cool visual. But it seemed like the Bengals were playing on a clean turf and the Bills were playing on an ice rink. It was just, that's the difference between it. It was really strange how the Bills were just slow and indecisive, and the Bengals just took it to them. I was obviously really, really impressed with the Bengals here. But I wrote mostly about the Bills in my wrap-up of the game, just saying this is just such a crushing way for that season to end because, as we talked about, going all the way back to August, only thing that mattered was the Super Bowl. And that stinks for a team. Like, if you look at this rationally, you say the Buffalo Bills were 13-3, won their third straight division title, won a playoff game, had some really cool wins, big moments, and none of it matters. None of it. It just feels like an empty season for them, which isn't. It's not rational or fair, but that was the expectation put on them. And Josh Allen's salary cap hit pretty much doubles next year. I mean, this window closes fast, and you just feel like the Bills lost out on a huge opportunity, and they were just so flat. It was really, really shocking to see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of it is the way it ended. It's one thing if it's a nail biter, you lose, it still feels horrible, but you feel more competitive, and it did. It felt a little bit like a dog of a game, and I'm going to bring this up because
it was never a game. It was never a game. Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
they got run out.
It wasn't. It kind of was one of the poorer games we saw the week, which was shocking because I was so excited to see, these two quarterbacks go at it. The Bills defense, what was the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line going to look like? It played out in ways that I didn't expect. But again, I'm going to bring this up because I catch so much about it. You have to run the football, okay? You have to be a team that can play complementary football, that can be balanced, whether it's in conditions, whether it's because certain things happen in game situations, like a Patrick Mahomes a guy gets hurt, an ankle gets rolled up on. It's snowing. Your footing doesn't look great. Something's off. Stephon Diggs is getting targets, but not catches. You just have to absolutely be a team that can control tempo or, again, just play complementary football. And people go nuts every time I say that, especially in the regular season, because they're like, look at the quarterbacks. Why do you want to put it in someone else's hands when you can't necessarily run it effectively? I keep telling people it's like insurance, okay? You don't want to pay the bill. It sucks to pay the bill. But when you have it and you need it, it's awesome. When you don't have it and you need it, it's freaking terrible. Go and look at how the 49ers ran the ball at times last night. Wasn't always effective, but you watch them wear the Cowboys out over the course of the game. Go look at the Bengals and how, again, you have the center, right? Karras hurts his knee. He ends up bracing it up, right? And you're down 3 starting offensive linemen. And the offensive line played pretty darn well. And part of that was the fact that you could lean into running the football when you got to the point where you're like, hey, guess what? Now we can kind of dictate this tempo. We can, bleed some clock out and really start to hurt these guys. And I think that made a huge difference for Cincinnati, the fact that you could run the ball the way that you did in a game like this. And people are going to keep crying and moaning and wanting to see quarterbacks throw it 50 times. I don't care, man. We get into these situations where you got to get into a conference title game. I watched them run and I just laughed. I'm like, this is what happens. And we're going to get to the Kansas City Chiefs later, but I'm going to keep banging that drum and people can keep calling me an idiot, but this is what ends up happening. And I guarantee you the Bills at times where, you're getting frustrated, the completions aren't there, the big explosive plays aren't necessarily there. I'm like, when this offense looked really at its absolute peak, it was when you had you looked a couple running backs deep. It wasn't just, Josh Allen having to carry everything. And then you get into the situation where Josh Allen's trying to carry everything and it's just not clicking. And then all of a sudden Stephon Diggs is like yelling at him on the sidelines. And it just felt like this season where there were so many positives, all the seams started to show at once. And it was completely unexpected.
Yeah. And I mean, you go back and you look, the one move they probably should have made was trading for Kareem Hunt. Like, how much would that have helped right here? Or something like that.
I advocated for that, yeah.
It seemed like, the James Cook pick, good player, but it seemed like they were still on tilt from missing out in free agency. So they got like a pass-catching running back when they should draft Dameon Pierce. Draft an overall, a guy who can, when it's snowing, when your offense is kind of bogged down, a guy you can give the ball to and get a few yards to get you in 2nd and 4, instead of asking Josh Allen to do it all. But this offense it's built strangely in that, really, other than Diggs, who was our second best player on offense? Like, obviously Allen, but skill position wise, Dawson Knox is an okay tight end. Gabriel Davis was really disappointing this year. None of their slot guys really showed up. I mean, it was just Diggs or nothing for this offense. And that puts so much pressure on Josh Allen. And, we talked about this even last week, that the Bills were just for the last 2 months of the season, they're good, but they weren't special. And I think that a lot has to change, and they need to add to that offensive mix. And it's not easy. We just talked about Dallas is going to be looking. Everybody's looking for your next AJ Brown trade, right? Like they're not that easy to find. Right. So I think maybe investigate running back so you have a little balance on offense. But they need something other than Stephon Diggs in this offense, because all of a sudden it's just Josh Allen doing everything by himself. When you can take Diggs out of the game, which the Bengals did a pretty good job of, it's just got to change. It's just got to change for the Bills. But now that window gets closed, I mean, it's closing up a little bit because of the cap hit to Josh Allen. We knew that the window wasn't forever. And guys who make as much money as Josh Allen generally don't go to Super Bowls. It's just the history of it. When a guy makes that percentage of the cap, it's not that easy. And I like Josh Allen a lot, but he needs some help. And it's just not happening with the Bills right now.
One of the people I thought about last night, watching the Cowboys and even the Bills, is how much things might have changed for maybe the Bills or the Cowboys if in mid-November, when it was expected, Odell Beckham Jr. had gotten healthy, and was able to play. Because these were the two teams that, I think they were the two front runners. It was going to be Dallas was going to sign him, or Von Miller was going to get him to the Bills. And I think it could have helped, but again, he wasn't healthy, so who knows? Yeah. But if
we would have seen last season's Odell Beckham with the Rams, would have helped a ton for the Bills or the Cowboys.
Would have been unbelievable if you get that guy all of a sudden and he's your second option. And it's got to be. Do you think it's a rollback for the Bills? Do you say 13 seconds? It was funny because we're at the Super Bowl and I remember we had Josh Allen on. And I had to ask about 13 seconds, and I'm like, good God, I'm like, this is gonna be my first question out of the box with this guy. And he just rolled his eyes so hard when I said it. And I thought, well, geez, nothing can really get worse than that. I don't know. It's like, I don't want to laugh, but geez, this might actually feel worse because it feels like you just took a step back. Like you got what you wanted, right? You got the home game. You got it, again, this was a home game. I understand that the Bengals are Joe Burrow and it's a team that went to the Super Bowl and they were on a roll and all these different things. But you got the Bengals at home. You got the Bengals with a banged up offensive line, right? Yeah. In-game injuries on the offensive line.
They got no pressure.
None.
Maybe because of snow, but no pressure.
Come on. Yeah. I get it.
I agree. This was a step back. I agree. It's one of those games where, like you said, you lose the 13 seconds game and you're like, oh, the overtime rules, we would have won. Give Josh Allen the ball. You could go into the offseason feeling like, okay, we one step away. And you're right. There's no shame in losing the Cincinnati Bengals. But again, this game was never competitive. From the first drive on, you're like, oh, goodness, the Bengals are so much better. A lot has to change. And what about the Bengals? We haven't really talked about them at all.
Yeah, let's talk about
this. Was really impressive. This looks like a team. We talk any of the four can win, obviously, but this did look like a team. You talked about San Francisco being that team coming out late, getting hot. And when you were talking about that, I was thinking about the Bengals because they're a team that looks like, hey, they were a step, from it last year. The Rams had that great drive at the end that kind of cost the Bengals a Super Bowl. This looks like a team that's like, we can make that next step. We want to get right back. We want to finish this thing, win a championship. They played really good football, defense, really underrated. Star players everywhere on offense. Obviously, the quarterback who, everybody wants to make Josh Allen out to be better than Patrick Mahomes. Are we talking about the wrong guy? Joe Burrow might be better than Josh Allen.
I'm going to tell you.
Why not?
I will say this, okay? I'm not supposed to reveal my MVP vote, okay? I won't reveal who I voted for MVP, but I will reveal who I put second. I put Joe Burrow second. I think Joe Burrow is I thought Joe Burrow was the second best quarterback in the NFL at the end of the season. Down the stretch, how he played, fans in Philly will kill me over that. I get it. I think if Jalen Hurts had not gotten hurt, then Jalen Hurts doesn't finish third on my ballot. Okay. He finished third on my ballot. Joe Burrow, who was not hurt, who was in there for the stretch run, who I think called it right when he said, hey, we feel like we've got that rhythm now all of a sudden. He literally called that at the podium, said, I think we're getting back to, where we were last year when we really hit our stride.
Charles, I think they're far better than they were last year. Right now. I think the 2022 Bengals
they're more experienced.
Are a better team than the 2021.
Yeah.
More experienced. they have that confidence. I mean, their defense is really underrated. Like, I mean, they're not San Francisco or anything, but they can make plays. They made life really difficult on Josh Allen. I like this Bengals team a lot. I think that, we'll get to the Chiefs in a little bit, but they go in. Why shouldn't the Bengals believe they could beat the Chiefs again? They beat them 3 times in a row. They can make it 4. I'm just impressed with this Bengals team. And again, Burrow is he is that guy. He's really freaking good.
Frank, man, like I knew that the Bengals were upset. You and I get the release from the NFL, right? About the Atlanta,
right, okay, yeah.
the Atlanta AFC title. They already sold 50,000 tickets. And my first reaction was, wow. And it was just like everyone else, like, this is really celebratory. Are they setting up to try and make the title games neutral site games? And then all of a sudden you got 3 Super Bowls instead of 1 Super Bowl. But then as it kind of sunk in a little bit, I'm like, man, the Bengals can't really be thrilled about this, because the league is basically touting a game that only happens if they lose. So you're touting 50,000 in ticket sales against a team that has yet to actually falter and thus make that game possible. I thought it was hilarious. The second Joe Burrow gets a mic put into his face after the game, he says, better get those refunds.
Yeah. How many times did they dunk on the NFL for that? It was Hayden Hurst. It was Zach Taylor. I saw like 10 different guys, it seemed, that had some version of, oh, you better give back those tickets or whatever.
And you know what? People love to bang on the league. They love to bang on the league office. Like, I can see why people would embrace the Bengals over that, because, the Bengals are like, you guys, like, come on, you're sending out this huge release, you're applauding, this is great. And okay, we're just going to blow it up, and we're going to blow it up in a fashion where it's not even really a question. Like you said, is it a better team? Yeah, I especially from the standpoint of experience and Burrow's confidence. And if he didn't back it up, we would be ripping the living hell out of this guy. I mean, anybody who steps up there and says the window is my career, like, I mean,
I know, right?
I was like, look,
that was.
Yeah, I'm like, look, he's not wrong, but you really should not be like, geez, you didn't even won a Super Bowl yet, man. Like, I mean, good Lord. If Patrick Mahomes says the window's my career, I'm like, yeah, well, you won a Super Bowl, you won an MVP. I'm like, yeah, okay.
5 straight AFC title guys.
Yeah. Burrow does, I'm like, hanging it out there a little bit. You better not fall apart in the playoffs, something bad. And so far has not happened, but
he was dealing yesterday. Man, it was fun to watch him.
And he did
surgically against that.
The crazy thing too was, it wasn't like when you looked at the box score at the end of the game, I expected, I knew they'd run the football, but I was surprised. I think he had like 240, 242, 242 passes. It wasn't like the way it felt at times. I was like, man, this dude's rolling up a 300-yard game on the road in the snow. And it wasn't that.
It was just because the Bills were so uncompetitive. The Bills were so uncompetitive that they didn't have to throw. That's the kind of game it was. But yeah, the Bengals, let's give some credit to that offensive line. They pushed the Bills around. Like, I was like, everybody, it was like, oh, 3 offensive linemen out, you're going to struggle. They were, every time Joe Mixon ran the ball, it seemed like he was 5 yards downfield before anybody touched him. And Burrow was really never under that much pressure. Just, this is a good Bengals team, and they're definitely live going into the AFC Championship game.
All right, we'll still get ahead. We're going to get to the Chiefs, Jaguars, but we're going to do that last, mostly because I want to get this one out of the way. Not going to spend a lot of time on this. The Eagles beat the living hell out of the Giants 38-7. One of those, 2 things about the game that were clear. It reminded you of the Eagles early on, where we watched them roll teams up, and we were like, oh man, like, that is going to be trouble. That is going to be a problem for a lot of people in the NFC. If this is real, and then as it carried on, the undefeated record went a long way. We're talking about months. We're just like, no, it's legit. Hurts is that dude. Everything about this team looks scary, especially once they started to make, trade deadline. They start to make some defensive additions. And then conversely, the Giants, we were like, okay, how long can Brian Daboll string this together? At some point it becomes, smoke and mirrors. Like it was, I got kind of banged because we cut the video from the, and I'm like, is there a chance for the Giants? In the wider view of the pod, I was like, they have to be perfect. A bunch of guys got to play over their heads to have a chance in this game. That didn't happen. Daniel Jones kind of kicked us in the teeth after we were like, let's pay this guy a bunch of money. And, you know, he showed some limitations in this game. All in all, look, I think the Giants played way over their heads this season. And this is kind of what happens when you get into playoff football. And the Eagles are absolutely hitting their stride. 49ers are going to have their hands full. A great defense for the 49ers, but they are going to absolutely have their hands full with this Eagles team.
Yeah. Philly has great defense, too. I mean, they got all these double-digit sack guys, a couple good cornerbacks. Jonathan Gannon really runs a great offense or great defense over there. The Philly's legit. I mean, we lost track of it. It was weird. I wrote about this after the game, basically saying there was no buzz about Philly going into a playoff, so we kind of forgot. This team is 15-1 when Jalen Hurts starts, and the one loss was a really, really, really bad missed face mask penalty. I think they win that game against the Commanders if that gets called. So this Eagles team was the cream of the crop of the NFL throughout the entirety of the season. Now, you could argue the 49ers playing better right now. I'd be fine with that. But from week 1 to right now, the Eagles have been the best team in the NFL. Jalen Hurts was awesome. I think that he looked did you have any questions about him? Like, he looked healthy to me. I didn't see any throws where I was like, oh, Hurts with shoulder. Nah, he looked fine to me from that first. I think his second play of the game, airs it out to Devontae Smith, just a dime right on him. Devontae makes a nice catch. Any questions about Hurts going forward? I don't think so, right?
No, I don't. I will say this. I mean, it wasn't necessary, so I get it. Like he was at times during the season a volume offense guy, running and passing. Like he was a guy who could absolutely strap it up and running, passing, roll up 400 yards. It wasn't in this game, but again, it wasn't necessary. As you said, the sample size we were given, did we look at it and we're like, oh no, I thought he did what he had to do and he looked sharp and he didn't have to put anything else on him in this game. It was so out of hand so quickly. So yeah, no, I don't think so. I think we're going to find out. It's a truer test is going to be against the 49ers defense, as it would be anyway. So,
but they're really good. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think they're closer to the addition that we expected, right? That's all that matters to me is that, he goes through the injury and it's like, I thought, all right, okay, we still don't know. Let's see. He's going to have to get hit. He's going to have to run a few times. Let's see if he still functions in the offense the way that he did early in the season, which put them at their peak level. And I thought, again, small sample size, but it looked very familiar to me. And I think we're going to see two teams with the Eagles and the 49ers that are playing pretty much as you're not going to get much better than this. Okay. There's not some massive injury where it puts a damper on the game. It's going to be best on best. And I'm pretty hyped about that. So I think
I am too.
We went through this whole season ripping the NFC and being like, God, it's weak and this problem and that problem. And it was true. I think it was mostly true. I think it's fair, the criticism we gave to the NFC. And yet the two teams that are going to vie for the Super Bowl, I'm kind of like, I'm okay with it. This is great. There's no fraud here. Whoever comes out of the NFC is going to be a badass team. That's awesome. That's the best you could have hoped for out of an NFC where we were just like, oh my God, this whole thing's in disarray. No, at the end, you're going to get an absolute curb stomping team between these two. I don't care who makes it. Either one of them, I think the AFC, whoever the AFC puts up, they're going to have their hands full.
Yeah, and I'll say this just to add to the Eagles real quick. Not enough was made of Dallas Goedert being out for a long time. I mean, he got hurt in that Monday night game. He lost to the Commanders. He makes such a big difference in that offense. He's just a guy who
one-handed catch
finds. It's really, really sweet. He's just he's not as good as AJ Brown or Devontae Smith maybe, but he's really a difference maker in that when they need it, when Jalen Hurts needs a security blanket guy or needs somebody near the goal line, or Dallas Goedert is a guy he always looks at, and Goddard always comes through. He's a big part of that offense. And now that he's back and they're full strength there, Lane Johnson played. He was limping around a little bit, but thought he played his normal self. We're seeing two teams that are pretty much full health, really good teams, just going to go at each other. I mean, again, both teams really balanced too. The Eagles' defense is
they're balanced.
Probably doesn't get talked about enough. They're really, really good with all those pass rushers they have. San Francisco obviously has a great defense. Both offenses are highly functioning. It's going to be a really fun game. Philly fans are going to be fired up for that one. I'm really excited about it.
Frank, and they ran the ball. I mean, it was dominant the way they ran the ball, and it wasn't like it was Jalen Hurts. It was running backs just gouging the living crap out of.
I remember this team ran for 362 against the Packers or whatever. I mean, they could beat you in different ways, man. Sirianni he knows, like, okay, I need to do this in this game. All right, we'll just run it on you. We could do, and that might be their formula against the 49ers. I'm sure we're going to talk real quick about the title games later, but I think it's going to be hey, we could dictate what we want to do against even a great defense. We'll see if they can, but really, really impressive win by the Eagles. The Giants had a great season.
Giants, there you go. Yeah, what are we going to say? About the
Giants? I want to say the Giants. Like, they got blown out in the last game, but whatever. They're not at the Eagles level. Everybody knows that. They had a great season. They know that right now they should feel great about their head coach, feel good about the quarterback, I think. Yeah, he struggled here, but they need to add to that room. They know they need to add to the offense. The offense doesn't have a lot of playmakers other than Barkley. So for them to do what they did this year, playoff win, 10 wins in the regular season, I thought it was great. I'm not taking anything away from the Giants. Look, they just got outclassed by the Eagles. They're not there yet. And the Eagles have something to do with that. The Eagles really, really impressive. But I mean, you think the same about the Giants, right? Like, this was a really, really big season for them.
No, the tone changed. That was the thing. Like, it was awful coming out of Joe Judge. It was just everything about the
quarterback sneaks on 3rd and 9.
Yeah, the succession of coaching changes and just everything went wrong. You could look basically the expanse of Daniel Jones' career and be like, good Lord, like this was just 4 years of awfulness. And it changed this year. And I think that's it. That's the biggest first step is you're like, did you get the right guy? You got the right guy. And now you can start to culture build. I don't think it's going to take time. There's a lot that needs to be added to this team, but there's some pieces on the offensive line that look good. There's some pieces on the defensive line that look good. Barkley is viable. I think Daniel Jones, I know some people are banging on him. I think depending how you build the team out around him is viable. There's going to be a lot of questions when it comes to the money. What do you pay Barkley? What do you do with Daniel Jones? There's a lot of contract.
It's going to be hard.
It's not going to be easy. You're definitely right. But all in all, I'm with you. I think just a really, really positive step forward. I'm interested to see if Brian Daboll wins Coach of the Year. I think it's going to come down to him and Shanahan. I'm just Kyle Shanahan. I'm curious.
I think it should be Shanny, but
yeah,
somebody voted for Daboll. I know you can't give it away, but I know if somebody voted for Shanahan, I can totally get that. But if you voted for Daboll, look at. By the way, you want to see the impact Brian Daboll makes. We just talked about the Bills' offense looking kind of lost, and they scored 10 points at home in a playoff game. Daboll was a huge part of that Bills team. Yeah. And I think that, you're seeing them miss Daboll, but you're seeing the Giants really benefit from having him. They look right now, who knows? We thought Matt Nagy was a good coaching hire after his first year. We don't know how it's going to go, but right now, Giants should feel like they hit a home run here. He really looks like he's turning that around, like you said. Let's move to the last game. The Chiefs, win 27-20. The story out of this, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is a high ankle sprain, and I know people know by now that low ankle sprain, high ankle sprain is not the same injury at all. Like, high ankle sprain usually is weeks. Like, this is something Patrick Mahomes, even if they make a Super Bowl, is going to be affected by. But he gutted it out. I thought it was, but you could see Patrick Mahomes is not the same player. Like, after injury, first quarter, he's throwing jump passes, and he's throwing a sidearm. He's doing the Patrick Mahomes things, and after that, he's really inaccurate on some plays. I mean, he gutted it out. They had the big drive where they really, really needed it. And he threw the jump pass touchdown, and that was huge. All respect to Patrick Mahomes, who's easily the MVP this year in my mind. But we'll see how this injury affects him. That's a big, big deal this week as we go on.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, it was the offense looked amazing, until Arden Key obviously, falls on Patrick Mahomes. I don't. I know there was some talk on is it dirty? It is. I will say this: when I saw the play initially, I think slow-mo makes it looks a lot worse than slow-mo. I don't think it's great either way, but I think when you watch it in real time, I don't know. I don't know if he can't necessarily aim for a guy's ankle like that. The whole thing was just wasn't the greatest play on earth. And I know Chiefs fans are really pissed about it. And I get it. I completely understand that. I thought the way Patrick Mahomes reacted to it, I don't know. It makes you love the guy. Like, he was pissed. Like he was like, I'll do that. You know, wanted to do the X-rays at halftime. I thought it was good that Andy.
And I guess they told him. I'm sure you heard this, that the Chiefs were like, well, you don't have to get X-rays, but you're not going back in the game until you do. And then he throws down the code. And throws the code.
And,
which is smart.
You could see the interaction. And Andy said afterward that he had told him, like, I'm not putting you in until we know you're okay. You can protect yourself. And I love the reaction of both guys. I think Andy did the right thing. I think it was awesome to see him do that, because the reality is, in most situations, when especially a player of that caliber says, I'm good, the coach is like, okay. Like, just go.
Yeah, right. Like we're see no evil, hear no evil. Okay, you said you're good. Let's go. Yeah.
We're fighting for our playoff life. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's real quick though. We need to throw some flowers to Chad Henne. I mean, like, I thought that was a turning point in the game. Patrick Mahomes back in the locker room getting X-rays. The Jaguars down a punt at the 2-yard line. I'm like, okay, this is where like, as I had said last week, I thought the Jaguars had a shot to win. They didn't end up playing up to that, but I thought that was the moment of, you got him backed up at their 2. Chad Henne's in the game. And Chad Henne, he wasn't spectacular in that drive or anything. It was mostly the running game, but he made the plays he had to make, man. I don't know that they necessarily win that game without Chad Henne driving them 98 yards right there for the score. It was a huge, huge drive in that game. Chad Henne, that's why you have a backup quarterback. Like, that's why you have a good veteran backup, even if you have a Patrick Mahomes. Because when they, even Patrick Mahomes back on the sideline before it was over, he's behind Andy Reid, but Chad Henne's finishing that drive. It's a touchdown to Travis Kelce. Just a great moment for Chad Henne, who's been, I think, 15 years in the league or something. That's probably his best moment as a pro. Good for him. He helps them win that game. Just a good team effort by the Chiefs, who are going to have a good team effort to keep this going, because I don't know. How much are you worried about Patrick Mahomes' ankle? Because I don't know. It's hard to say without knowing whether he practices Wednesday. We're going to hear from him on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. But it's concerning, because this Bengals team is not going to let up.
I think he'll be look, it sucks to say this. My guess is, and again, this is early Monday. It's crazy early right now. We're taping this. He's going to be booted up. Okay. Probably over the course of the week. I'd be surprised if we practice much. They're going to do everything. He's going to probably be in treatment nonstop until they play. They'll wrap it. They'll wrap the living hell out of it. He'll be probably gimpy. It won't be nearly what it was, I think, during the course of that game. I think it was a lot worse because it just happened. But I think, when he gets out there initially against the Bengals, it'll probably be stiff. Okay. Once the adrenaline gets going, he's not going to be, again, what he was pre-injury against the Jaguars. Like you said, when you watched it move around, the jump pass, all that stuff, that's not going to be this guy. But I don't know. Like, to me, in a weird way, it's sort of like, hey, this is how your legend gets written. These are moments where we end up remembering what kind of a player shows up when everything doesn't go your way. And clearly this is not going his way right now. This is a difficult injury and a lot of pain to deal with. There's going to be a shot, I'm sure, to make sure that he's not feeling the amount of pain that he would. It's a reality in the NFL. It's how it works. People just need to understand that. But I look at this game and I was like, all right, when he got hurt, I was messaging with a couple of people. And again, it goes back to what I say when we go through the season. I said, well, they got to have a complementary football team. You have to be able to run the football. You got 134 yards from Pacheco, McKinnon, Kadarius Toney.
And again, key on that Henne drive. I think they ran for 65 yards on that drive. Yes, you were
when
right.
You need it, was it there? And it was. They needed it. It wasn't. We're not talking about this wasn't the Eagles. Okay, it wasn't like 200 plus rushing yards. 250 rushing yards. But again, when you needed it in a pinch. Were you able to do it? And were you able to do it? McKinnon, it wasn't like you're going to sit there and, especially if you're box score scouting, you're going to say these carries, what did they really amount to? Whereas Pacheco, you're like, wow, bang for your buck, completely different sort of styles running the football between those two guys. But again, I think that matters, and not to invoke Brandon Staley here, but even if the numbers aren't sexy, you are still incurring a price. And you're still doing something to the defense. You're offering something to the defense that they have to deal with. That's what I liked about the Chiefs. So, they're going to go into this game against the Bengals with a banged up quarterback. The Bengals are going to come in with a banged up offensive line, gut it out. It's still the two teams that, if not the Bills, I would have wanted to see ultimately in this situation. The Jaguars, I liked afterward. I liked that they played a competitive game. I like afterward that Doug Pederson was basically like, look, this is what we need. This was, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically that he had told the team in the locker room, like, these are the experiences that you need to go through to understand, what it takes to win football games and to change who you are and build into the team that we just lost to. I thought I was impressed with the way Trevor Lawrence handled it. Jaguars were, considering how we looked at this team in the middle of what was going on with Urban Meyer last year, I never would have believed that this was a team that, granted, an injury to Patrick Mahomes, but really would have made the Chiefs sweat this deep into the playoffs, been right on the doorstep of an AFC title game.
If Jamal Agnew doesn't fumble inside the 5-yard line, and I'm not trying to throw Jamal Agnew under the bus, but they were going in for a touchdown right there. And if they score that, you might have seen at least overtime or something. And I hope people realize, look, first half of this season, off season, last season, I was talking about Trevor being on this roller coaster, and I don't know if he's a dude. I don't know. I hope people realize Trevor Lawrence has arrived. It's not like, well, what are we getting out of Trevor? No, he is a top. I talk a lot about the 5 guys on the planet who can just lift everybody on their shoulders. I think Trevor's going to be one of those guys if he's not already. He's that good. He's living up to the hype. I thought, they go down 7-zip early. Mahomes has a nice drive with all these highlight plays. Trevor just comes right back down. It's a nice touchdown to Kirk, and it's like, he is really unflappable. He, from going back to the wild card round when he threw the 4 interceptions, came back and led his team back. I love everything we've seen out of Trevor Lawrence late in the season. And don't forget, it's kind of one of those things you forget about. I've forgotten about it like 10 times already. They're going to add Calvin Ridley next year. A shrewd trade. Look, if we haven't really seen Calvin Ridley play football in 2 years, we don't know how that affects a guy. But if he's what he was before 2020 or whenever, the last time we really saw him play a full season, Calvin Ridley was a top 10, 15 receiver in the NFL. And you add him to Christian Kirk, and even Zay Jones had a monster year. If they can get Evan Ingram back. All of a sudden, this Jaguars team is really interesting. Clearly going to be the division favorite next year. And I think that this was a great season for them. And I think, like we talked about the Bills a little bit ago, the fact that the Jaguars went into this game, were competitive. Yeah, they lost a close game, but you can look and say, we made this mistake, we made that mistake. But the Chiefs are 5 straight ties to the AFC Championship game. We were right there. I think it's a good thing for the Jaguars going into the offseason.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. It's Pederson. It was interesting when they went through the hiring process, and I remember when Pederson was just getting a ton of love in terms of when the interview and all these different interviews are going on. Everyone's like, Doug, Doug's going to get a job, and of course, and I remember talking to someone with the Eagles, and they're like, man, after he got hired with the Jaguars, and remember, it wasn't the greatest ending with the Eagles. He was basically at odds with the owner about making coaching staff changes, and that's why they, separated. But very prominent person inside the Eagles just straight up said, like, he's going to be fine, and he's going to do really, really well. And now he's got this kid to work with. Just wait. Like, he's really – it's weird because I kind of hear the same thing now about, like, Frank Reich. Frank's going to be – well, let's figure out, where he's going to go. He's going to get another coaching shot. He's going to be okay, if he lands in the right position with the right player. Doug clearly did. Lawrence has shown. And I think this is frankly good for the NFL because of how that draft process went with Trevor Lawrence. If he had been a big miss, I'd have been like, I don't understand this, because literally almost everybody you talked to involved was like, no, this is a can't miss. If it was a miss, I'm like, how did everybody get this? Everybody got this wrong. So for it to come to fruition
with him, man.
Yeah.
Real quick, we talk about really like a quick thumbnail sketch of what you think about these championship games.
Sure.
How do you think these play out? Let's start NFC because I think that's first on the docket on Sunday. Just a great matchup, but I don't know who I'm going to pick yet, but I have a tough time going against the Eagles at home. Like, they are so balanced. They can beat you in so many ways. They're well coached too. I know Shanahan's a great coach for the 49ers, but I think Sirianni is too. That Philly crowd is going to be crazy.
Brutal.
But San Francisco, I mean, again, they haven't lost since October 23rd. Great game. Just a great match.
Brock Purdy, obviously for San Francisco 49ers, he just played in the most difficult game of his NFL career, against the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And the Cowboys threw a really good game plan at him. I thought Dan Quinn was very successful in achieving what he wanted to do, meaning, push him around, push him toward the sidelines, make him, consider making throws on the run when, his ball location isn't always great. Basically, just put him in situations where you limit his ability to have time and, maybe at time, their defense wasn't extremely exotic, but again, it was just a lot of the chaos that was thrown at Brock Purdy. He's now going to see that against the Eagles. The difference is he's going to be on the road against a team that is better than the Cowboys right now, and probably until you knock them off, the best team in the NFC. So this will now become the most difficult game for Brock Purdy in his career. And I think Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, is going to throw a pretty awesome defensive scheme at him. And like you said, I mean, it's for as much as we talk about San Francisco's defense. Yeah, I mean, the look at the defensive line of the Eagles, loaded. Right. Like it's deep.
4 double-digit sack guys. Unbelievable. They had 70 sacks this year. 70.
Completely nuts. That front is so.
Bring it.
Their corners
who can deal with Ayuk Samuel. Yeah, I mean, Howie did an unbelievable job the last couple of years putting together this roster. Howie Roseman, obviously GM of the Eagles, no doubt. Did you get any read real quick before we move on to the next game? Just because I think this is a big deal that we should be talking about more. Is McCaffrey healthy? Because obviously late in the game, when it's still very, very tense, Elijah Mitchell is getting most of the carries. McCaffrey's kind of sprinkling in. What do you got on McCaffrey?
Okay, so this was actually kind of interesting. He admitted that he said it was a calf. Okay. So he came and I thought it was interesting that they brought him to the podium. I didn't notice it when he walked in. He talks, everything. When he walked out, I thought he looked stiff. Like I was like, wow, he wasn't a big limp, but I felt like I was watching a guy who was working really hard to make sure he didn't limp out of.
Didn't limp?
Yeah, like I did. I watched him walk. I watched him literally walk out the door and I'm like, man, I think he's efforting really hard to make sure people don't see him limp right now. And he's got a limp. He says he's going to be okay. Again, I would not expect him to get a ton of practice this week. I think it would be a lot of treatment. It's great, to have Elijah Mitchell.
He's a really good back. I like Elijah a lot. I mean, obviously the durability is a concern for him, but when he's healthy, he's legit.
He was their guy. I mean, the season starts, he's your guy, and obviously goes on to IR in early September, and that changed everything. But what a luxury to have is that he's still, I think, he's 1,000-yard back. I mean, if he plays over the course of a season, that's the kind of running back that he is. I think they'll do a ton of treatment on McCaffrey, and the fact that he showed up for podium, I think, spoke to. It's not like devastating. It's probably going to take a lot of work.
Oh, he's going to play, 100%, of course, but
he's not 100%.
Right.
I don't think he's 100%.
Right, yeah. That's a big key. I mean, they haven't lost with McCaffrey being kind of full go. Well, they lost that first game with him when he barely played.
Frank, I was struggling not to tweet. Like as I watched it, I'm like, should I tweet this? Should I tweet that I'm watching? Like I'm watching him walk out, and I'm like, man, he seems to be putting a lot of effort into making sure he's not limping walking out of this right now. But geez, he looks really stiff. And I thought, I'm going to let it slide. It's after the game. It was a tough game. Like, come on, I'm not going to make a big deal.
Tough game. They hit him. They really hit him. I mean, they punished him. What about the AFC game? I'm torn right now. I mean, it's Monday. I don't make my picks for a little bit. Between the Bengals looking like a wagon right now, like they're the team that's getting hot, where am I really going to go against Patrick Mahomes at an Arrowhead Stadium in an AFC Championship? I know they lost. They lost against the Bengals last year. I get that. But it's always hard to go against the Chiefs and Mahomes. I mean, you talk about a fun matchup between two great quarterbacks.
I don't think it's, again, I think both games, good luck. I don't want to make my picks right now at all. I don't, it sucks. Right. I don't even want to make my picks at all.
Beauty Two good games, two great matchups.
You're going to make picks and you're going to do disservice to two teams. Like, that's just it, because either team, like, could I pick the two home?
You're going to feel scared picking against the Bengals or picking against the 49ers, or because you're going to say in the back of your head, like, oh, am I really going against that 49ers defense? I just saw absolutely choke out the Cowboys. Am I really going to go against Joe Burrow when he's playing this well, or Patrick Mahomes? Or, like, anybody you pick against, you're going to feel like this might turn out to look really, really stupid.
I will say this. Here's the two things. I think number one, in the NFC, I think Purdy. We've talked about Purdy, but I really do believe this is the game where he becomes Purdy, and then obviously the McCaffrey injury. I think those are two huge issues here. How does Purdy handle playing in Philly, which is going to be, again, this is going to be the most difficult game he's ever played. Who knows? I mean, I think right now it seems like the weather's going to be fine, but it's just everything that can be thrown at you is now going to be thrown at him. He's answered the bell as much as he could up until this point in the season. I think, like, if I was going to question why I would place the Eagles over the 49ers in a way that's dispositive for San Francisco, it's because I'm still like, hey, okay, yet another step. Here's another step. Great. You took another step, Purdy. Here's another step for you. That's why I would put the Eagles being dynamic. I'm not doing a disservice to what they are as a team. And then when I look at the Bengals and the Chiefs, I question, can the Cincinnati offensive line do this 2 games in a row? Be banged up
without the snow. I think the snow played a big part in the Bills' pass rush.
That's worth question. I think it's a fair question. The footing, and so can they do it 2 games in a row against the Chiefs in Arrowhead? It's going to be insane. I mean, it's every bit. It's Seattle at home in an NFC title game, Arrowhead at home in an AFC title game. I mean, it's going to be the loudest possible environment you could play in. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, I if there's anything, I just question, okay, the Bengals did it in this game. Can they do it again? How much was the footing a problem for Buffalo, and what impact did that ultimately have?
Do you take anything on the Bengals beating them 3 in a row? I mean, is it one of those that's in the Chiefs' heads, or they, the revenge game? I don't know. It tells me the Bengals are going to be scared. Obviously.
I don't think they're not
intimidated on there.
I don't think they're. Yeah, that's it. I'm with you 100%. I think that's it. I don't think they're afraid, but generally, I don't feel like Burrow. And again, I always focus this through the quarterback and the coach, and especially the quarterback. I don't think Burrow's really scared of anybody. Like, I think even if he loses teams, he just doesn't.
He's really not.
Even if he loses the teams, he's like, whatever. Like, he doesn't care. He's just like, whatever. Let's go out. We'll beat him next time. That's just what we're gonna do. And so I don't think it would really matter. I don't. But you're right. Does that play in their favor? Yeah, probably plays in their favor. Plays in their favor every time they take the team, whether it's the Chiefs or not. On the flip side, is it in the Chiefs' head? I don't think so. It's a seasoned team. Mahomes is Mahomes. Andy Reid's Andy Reid. I don't think they're getting. They're not sitting there clutching at pearls because they got to play the Bengals again. I think it's more of like, hey, this is an opportunity. We're pissed off. We're not going to keep losing these guys. But again, another thing when I'm talking about reasons to doubt a team in a dispositive way, it's Mahomes and the injury. It's like, okay, well, let's see how does this play out over the course of the week, and then when he gets on the field, and I'm telling you, I would be surprised if he went on the field and there was not a little bit of a period of time of letting the adrenaline kick in and loosening up once he gets on the field. So, but we'll see. Treatment. Both sides are going to be dealing with, the offensive line and Mahomes injuries and everything. So it'll just be interesting to see how it shakes out. This is awesome. I'm so happy how this played out.
Great matchups. Totally matchups. Awesome. Too. Because sometimes we get to the Final Four and we're like, ugh, that team that, it was a fun upset in the divisional round, but now they're going to go just get their hats handed to them on the road. And that ain't how either of these road teams can win. Both home teams are great. Look, like, it is four Super Bowl contenders.
We're not staring at another like Green Bay Packers, like, when the Packers fall short, it's the same story. Like, what's around Rodgers? No, I think this is, I thought it was smart to opening it with the betting odds because it's so close and that's how it feels.
I've never seen that before, Charles. We get to this point and there's one team that's usually really, really good. Or like, minus 110 or something, and one team that's like 6-1 because they're gonna. No, not this one. It's basically whoever you want, you can get 2.5 to 1 odds. Okay, let's go. It's
let's be real. It should have been the Niners with the quarterback who was the last pick in the draft this year. And that's absolutely who it should have been. But that speaks to how good the overall team is, that we're just like, no, absolutely. Like, it's not as big a deal at all. The burnt onion ring can totally win this game and play in the Super Bowl.
I love it. That's awesome.
All right.